Okay, welcome everybody to the January 25th meeting of the Solid Waste Management District Board. First order of business would be the approval of minutes from the December 8th meeting. Everybody had a chance to review them, and does anybody have any changes, corrections, additions, or deletions that they might want to put on the board? Okay, can we hear a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Mary Rose moves to approve. Susan seconds. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other additional discussion of the minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll just do a voice vote. All those in favor of approving the December the 8th meeting signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the meetings are approved for December the 8th. Next item of business is the budget report. You gonna do that, Karen? Excuse me, I should note for everybody that Pete is off sick today, so that's why we have Karen running the meeting for us.
Yes, I will do my best here. And we got the minutes. So Pete usually has a little concise chart, and I tried to figure it out and I couldn't. So these are the documents that were in your packet. And for this part of it, I can't really explain any of it. So we can kind of skip it if you want, or I mean, I guess it's just been the 1 month since we last looked at a budget, but anyway, I don't know what else to say about it, Bob. Sorry.
That's okay. We can always catch it up again next month. I don't think anything other than normal expenses is scheduled to happen between now and then.
Yeah.
No correspondence to the board. Under the action items, we have first item is the lease agreement for the new Aiken Road Recycling Center.
Yeah, so I know I do have a little bit of an update. Again, doing the best I can with I wasn't really in these conversations at the beginning, but I'm trying to get up to speed to give the update. So I know that this is going to have to be approved, you know, for the money and the lease agreement and everything. If we're not able to decipher these new changes this month, it may not be that big of a deal to wait, because they probably can't start any construction with the weather as it is anyway in the winter. So, but I will say, the lease agreement was in your packet, and Matt came back with the rental rate. It had been $1,500, and the price was down, or offered to be down, $1,175 monthly instead. And then the other suggestion was to have a 1-year lease with five options to renew. So on this chart, the highlighted on the term is what was told to me over email today, and then what's not highlighted was the original. And then the monthly lease, I just changed. It had been $1,500 and it's $1,175. I'm not sure what that would have done to the other little amortization schedule, because it didn't, I wasn't sure if I understood that completely. But as far as the agreement that you all were given, those were the latest changes: the rental rate, and then the term being 1 year with 5 options to renew.
Does anybody, yeah, go ahead.
Bob, I have a couple of things about that. One is the lease is still flagrantly missing the part where it says that we have egress to this piece of property and that the public can use the road that we are going to use to get to this piece of property. And I think that that really needs to be in this lease. Because if we have a piece of property that people can't get to, it's not going to do us any good. The second thing is that I looked up some properties on LoopNet, and there's a piece of property on Bullet Lane around Oxmoor that the rent would end up being $433 a month. Then that was one of the more expensive pieces of property as I found that were just vacant land. And I just think that even at 1,100 and something, that this is just an exorbitant price for this piece of property. And maybe there's something about it that I don't know, but I thought that Bullet Lane right by Oxmoor was, you know, a pretty good location equivalent. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth. And I'm not saying I wouldn't vote for it. I'm just saying that I have some concerns.
Well, I think with that question, you raised that before about the access, didn't you?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
I think that Pete told me that the attorney forgot to put it in or something, but I think that it needs to be there.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. I was getting ready to say, I think since you raised that before and you still have the question on that, and what Karen said about nothing moving forward very soon on this because
Right. Well,
we
I
can't do
understand
anything
that,
till
but
we
there's
do
still things we
construction.
need to look into though,
Yeah.
before this
Well,
can
what I was getting ready to say is I don't have a problem putting this off until next month as long as Karen is okay with the fact that we're not going to significantly hold anything up.
I think I did talk to Pete this morning and it sounded like with the weather, and you know, that it would be okay if we still want to work on this agreement. So we can have those notes, you know, again, with a concern about the price and then also making sure that the agreement includes something about the access, then, I would say we can make sure those are worked on again throughout this next month.
Well, and Karen, the other obvious thing is what you've already pointed out, but just to emphasize that the table of about property devaluating as you know what they have to give us for property if we end the lease obviously needs to sync in with the new terms of the lease. So that table's going to have to be reworked if it isn't already. So.
Do any board members have any issue putting this off to the next board meeting?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't.
They bring those issues that Mary Rose raised, which I think are valid. Bring those up with Pete when you get a chance, Karen.
Yes.
We have a next item then is request for funds for education and outreach materials.
Yeah, so we do like to keep our materials stocked for giveaways or swag, as some people call it. And we're kind of running out of some of our top items that we like to give away. And when we started pricing out ordering those, it was totaling over $5,000. So I just wanted to bring it before you all to make sure you're okay with spending some money to get our stock back up. So these are not exactly, well, the notebook does have our logo on it. We just need to make sure it's blue instead of black there. But the bag, the shape, and then the shape of the water bottle, it would just have our logo on it instead. So the price seems to fluctuate a little bit every time we get a quote, not by much, but I just put a total cost of about $6,000. The last estimate was more like $5,500. But either way, with all the setup fees and shipping and then the price of the materials, it was totaling over $5,000. So I needed to bring that to you all, and just want to make sure it's okay to stock up again.
Where do those funds come from? Out of what account?
It's the district account. I'm not exactly sure how those line items are titled. If you're thinking more specifically.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve it.
Before you make the motion, I was just wondering, and might not affect the motion. I've just recently talked to several small business. We was in like a small business meeting, and I was wondering if I could have some of those people to send you some quotes that might help. Was really, I don't know if that, I don't think that affects the motion at all about purchasing, but I wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, I'll change the motion to not to exceed $6,000.
There you go. I
Okay.
second.
Okay, let me, I've got to jump in here. Bruce, unless somebody has changed something, Bruce, you're not on the board. I don't think.
Oh, okay. Well, forget me.
you can't make a motion. You're on the advisory committee.
I've been throwing out other stuff before. It's okay. Sorry.
Not a problem. I was gonna ask Karen, this is material that you all distribute for attendance at the various public meetings and classes and other type stuff that we do, correct?
Yes, and tabling at community events. And I will say I have never purchased reusable bags in the past 6 years that I've been here. We've just now run out. They must have had a lot. I don't know how many was here, but yeah, we aren't just throwing them around everywhere, but we do love to have some things to give away and get our logo out there.
Karen, what I was mentioning, like say, and it might help. I'm thinking on two things. One, it might help some of the small vendors, and I know they would work really hard. But two, I think the more different groups that we can utilize might help get our name out about the work, that stuff that we're doing. So, like say, whatever the price, whatever the purchasing, I was just wondering if I could maybe send you over some names of some people who could maybe you could touch base with about, see what their pricing is.
Yes. And I was going to answer that, Carl. No problem. That's great if you have some contacts.
Thank you.
I guess there's not a motion out there right now, but I will.
Not right now. No.
I will repeat Bruce's motion to spend the $6,000. I'm assuming this comes out of education or public relations line items on our budget. Just as an aside.
Yeah, I don't have the detailed budget. I didn't print it off, but yeah, it would probably come out of educational materials.
And I'll still second it. I'll second that emotion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion or questions from the board members? Okay, hearing none, since this involves the expenditure of money, can you call roll, Karen?
Yes. Deethra,
Yes.
Mary Rose,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Bob Schindler,
Yes.
and I didn't see Bob Lee come on.
No, I haven't seen him come on.
Did he come on? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have purchase approved. Thank you all very much. Next item, we would move into the old business. Karen, electric vehicle.
Yeah, this is another one. I don't have a very good update, but we do have an electric vehicle at fleet currently. We are just, I believe, still waiting on that purchase order to go through. The last email that I was a part of, it was just kind of we have a new system for all the money. So Pete was just trying to work through that. And then we will have to be able to charge this vehicle, but I don't think that's going to be a big issue for getting the area set up for that. But that's, it's just not much of an update because I'm not sure if Pete had more than that. But it is in the works, and we're very excited to get that going because as soon as we can get that vehicle, we'll be able to move forward with our hiring again. And that's for that Recycle Right program for the team that would do the OOPS tags.
Okay. Any questions, board members? All right, thank you. New business.
Okay.
USEPA grants.
Yeah, so we the director over at the Office of Advanced Planning and Sustainability and Pete and I have been working toward applying for some EPA grants that have been put out. It's a lot of money, it's competitive, but we decided that it would be worth our while to apply. There was a very tight turnaround for this grant. We didn't really hear about it till the very end of the year, and we were getting into the holidays. And at first, the deadline was January 15th, but luckily they extended it to February 15th. So we have been working on applying for both grants and with the grant writers. And so which helps because it's a lot of staff time to write a grant, and it's, you know, not mine or Pete's expertise. So there's 2 grants, and these are online if you want to read any more details about them. But there's one that's the Consumer Recycling Education and Outreach Grant. You can get up to $2 million for that one. And the other one is the Solid Waste Infrastructure for Recycling Grant. And you can get up to $4 million for that. So we're going to apply for both, and I have a little bit of information for both of these. And some of this is coming from a bit of the narrative that's already being written. Nothing's final yet because, of course, we haven't turned it in, but this is some of what we've been working on. So as far as this, the Education and Outreach Grant, they are putting, well, some of the money is dedicated to areas in environmental justice areas. So, so we are working on a targeted outreach program. This is something we've actually been wanting to do, and we decided that if we were going to apply for this grant, that we would work that kind of idea we've had into it, because one of our biggest issues with it is just staff time. So basically this would be the development and implementation of an outreach program that would focus on 3 specific neighborhoods with low recycling participation. And they would be selected upon demographic characteristics such as low income, low English proficiency, and minority. And then, of course, anything we learned could be shared throughout the community, but these would be kind of our first areas. Education staff and support resources would perform door-to-door outreach, informing and engaging with residents about solid waste services, best practices, acceptable recycling materials, and waste reduction practices. This would also include an interactive awareness campaign that would encourage recycling participation, social media, digital outreach, also outdoor media, an informational brochure, a school curriculum, and all of that to cultivate the understanding of recycling and its importance to improve the attractiveness and quality of life for all of Metro Louisville. As we've kind of looked into the budget of this, the pieces of that are material design and printing, and this is going to include information specific to services in the urban services district for these areas, which is large item pickup by appointment, waste collection services and schedule, cart maintenance, as well as general recycling information. It would include some mailings. The big bulk of the grant money is for the staff. So 6 full-time education specialists and 1 full-time supervisor. And then technology support, meaning computers and phones, more tablets, 2 electric vehicles, and then the media campaigns, which we're getting estimates through our current vendor right now, just to get an idea. But so all of that when we turned in our intent to apply, came out to be about 1.6 million. But the grant itself does have a $2 million maximum. So we're not, that's why on the previous slide, that it can be up to 2 million.
Karen,
Is any-
that sounds really interesting. I've done some of this before. Have you guys already written or applied for the grant, or were you guys in the process? I would be interested in either supporting, helping, or just learning more about, what you guys are doing as it relates to going after this grant.
Yeah, we would welcome your help. We have grant writers, so we're kind of supplying them with a lot of the information, and they're sort of packing it for us, and for the application, and it is due February 15th, so we're not finished yet. So I can definitely keep you posted with some of the draft materials if you want to provide any input.
Yeah, so previously we participated, my company did 2 different projects were similar in 3 different neighborhoods. We were contracted to help to do some environmental justice study and kind of similar to this in Baltimore, Philly, and DC, and then another separate time in Miami. And then we did some work here locally when the city was trying to get approval, or actually a private group was trying to get approval to create a new digester system in downtown Louisville, and we did a lot of work. So we developed campaigns, a number of the different things they're asking for. We've already developed and came up with ideas and strategies, and did some of this work. Some of it we've already done and implemented, and then others we proposed, and they were accepted, but then the project got stopped. But yeah, definitely would like to get whatever input or support I can.
Great. That would be great. Yeah, this grant is an education and outreach grant, but it isn't very specific on how you go about, what your project is. So so this is kind of taking an idea we've had and kind of beefing it up a little bit, just because if we were able to do this, we'd have a lot of money.
Have we already identified the 3 neighborhoods that you had mentioned? 3 neighborhoods that we would.
No, well, it's not set in stone. But Pete right now has been using one of our maps where a lot of our lots of illegal dumping and solid waste violation issues. He has a map that kind of shows where those hot spots are, so that
I think
kind of how he was
Bro, I think your microphone's on. Dieter, I mean.
Oh, I wasn't saying anything.
Is this a any matching grant, or is this an outright grant?
No, it's an outright grant. So I believe it'll be competitive, which is why we didn't, mind spending the small amount of money for the grant writers and getting their expertise. But yeah, we'll see. I think you find out maybe in April, but the project wouldn't be expected to start till the fall.
Well, I commend you all for going after that.
Yeah. All right, so that's the one the other grant, this is a little bit more in Pete's wheelhouse, but I went ahead and copied some of the narrative here. So this is a solid waste infrastructure for recycling grant, and this is another idea that has been, well, it's just something, it's kind of a dream, I guess. So so why not try to get a grant for it? But across the street from our office on Merriweather, there's you know, we use it for some parking and everything, but there is some land, and the idea would be to create a complex there that similar to when we visited Bloomington, Indiana, Monroe County, when we had that tour, and we kind of shared about how they have a lot of reuse exchange kind of programs, even with their household hazardous waste. So it's a little bit like that. So in this case, increasing recycling participation and educating residents through a creation of a multi-purpose complex, providing the collection of your regular recycling, electronics, hazardous waste, metals, organics, clean wood, and latex paint. Provide education. The idea is to include a bit of an education center, like a classroom space, maybe an education offices there. Proposed to be constructed in a location central to disadvantaged communities, which will both encourage material exchange at the complex and potentially reduce illegal dumping and improve the cleanliness and quality of life. So, but it is the Merriweather location. So not exactly, we're not recreating the waste reduction center. The idea is that there would be more could go on there, their exchange, and a lot more could be recovered. Let me just double check. Did I put, okay. So I do have some of that printed out if you all have any more questions about it. What are you thinking about that?
And again, this is just a straight out grant.
Correct. And this one has a maximum of $4 million. So this one, we started on the education and outreach one. I think it was a little bit simpler of a concept. This one we're still working on. We have tasks for this. The narrative isn't completely written yet, but you know, we would need a project manager for the design and development. We did get evaluation of the site and clearance. There was some concern that it was a brownfield, but it is cleared that we could use that site. Design and permitting, RFP for preparation for a construction contract, the construction itself, having some opening activities to bring it up to functioning, just operating it, and then having an awareness campaign for the facility. So some of these are listed out as tasks for creating this project. And our interim director, Jeff Brown, is able to add value to this. You know, he's able to help us. He's always been in the engineering side of public works. So so he's met with us some and trying to get us, you know, some of that expertise that we need.
Karen, we are working right now with the group who's doing the Norton Hospital project in West Louisville.
Okay.
So one of the things we've done, the way that it's been designed, and we're kind of helping to lead the community part, is a complete community engagement part. So everything from the workforce to the laborers, and we're getting tons of we're getting tons of buy-in from people. And I think what could be really appealing about getting the grant, if we could do some of the same thing here, and I think we could probably even get some additional corporate support. So one of the things Norton Hospital is doing, they're trying to really be proactive. So they brought in groups that help out to site for training for some of the businesses and workforce. They're also utilizing a group that's helping provide like second chance opportunities for workforce for folks who previously had a record and now are trying to get back into the workforce. And it's an awesome opportunity. So we've left no stone untouched. And so almost every organization that's like dealing with workforce or minority business or the whole thing, we're working with right now. And I think that an initiative like that, if we could get a complete community buy-in that then they could take ownership, I think would be really appealing to the granting committee, that this is not just something that would be good, but the community is buying into it as well. So I just want to throw that out as a thought, that if we could get the surrounding community to buy into it, I think we could probably get, we're not that far from the University of Louisville. I'm sure we could get some buy-in and support there. But if it appeared to be a complete community initiative versus just a board initiative, I think that could probably be really appealing.
Thank you.
Good point. Good point. Real good point.
Mhm. Yep. We'll definitely touch base with you about, we're meeting with the grant writers. We kind of have a standing meeting with them every day at 11 a.m. But we do sometimes cancel if we don't have any action things to work on. But I will definitely send you some of our materials, and we'll make that connection and see if you can help or provide, even if you just met with the team and provided some info, that'd be great.
Well, like you say, sure. And I think that I could pretty quickly put together an outline of what we've been doing. We've been working on for a while now. And so we've literally mapped the city. We've identified almost every minority contractor, workforce entities. We've gotten support from Jefferson County Public Schools and every other major organization. So I think that with an initiative like this, and as everyone's working fairly well together, they want to see more involvement and engagement. So when you talk about some of the disenfranchised areas, that's exactly what we're doing. So I think, and now this is a private group, Norton Hospital, but to do it on an effort like this, I think this could really be something that I think a granting entity could see that would be favorable.
Brandon, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I had a question. I didn't get a chance to go on the field trip to Bloomington with you all or whoever went, but so Karen, just so I understand, this is not like an actual materials recycling facility. It's more like a drop-off location, but also like maybe it has like some reuse or restore components and space for education. Is that right? So it's not an actual industrial facility, is it?
No. Those of us who went up there, they don't process anything.
Yeah.
It's they try to, their paint, rather than pay to get rid of paint, they try to make it available to the community to reuse. They do some of the household hazardous material collection there, and then try to pull out stuff that's technically under EPA guidelines. It's household hazardous material. But if it's a jug of paint thinner that's never been opened and is perfectly good, you set that aside and it's available to the community for reuse. It's that type of center.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you. Sorry, I think my internet cut out for a second. But
any other questions, comments? You don't need any kind of board approval. This is informational.
it is informational, but the next part of this is that through with the grant application comes a couple letters of support. So we've asked for letters of support from various people, council members in the areas that that the outreach program would focus on, JCPS, Partnership for a Green City. So we're wanting letters of support for each grant from the Waste Management District. So I believe Pete had already sent drafts of the letter of support, kind of written already, but I felt like the one for the infrastructure grant was not complete because I think that second paragraph was like copied and pasted and it mentioned the door to door on
Yeah,
it. So
I was going to ask that question. It did
yeah,
look like it was exactly in the other grant, but not necessarily applicable to that second grant.
right. So I think maybe he had started to edit it and it wasn't complete, but I think the idea is, I don't know if this needed an action item or if we just wanted to have, just even verbal support from you all as a board. But the goal is to have those letters, you know, amended to be correct for each grant, but to be submitted with the applications.
I don't
Mr.
think-
Chair, do you want a motion for us to approve for you to send on our behalf a general letter supporting these grants with the grammar and fine points tuned up in these letters?
Yeah,
I don't
that
think
would
I
be
don't
good.
think that's necessary, but I think it would be a good idea for the board to go on record in case that figures in somewhere in the whole evaluation process. I think it would, if we go ahead and take a voice vote, I would think it would be good to be on record.
So are you asking for a consensus of us sending these supportive letters?
Yeah, I was going to ask for a consensus, but I was first going to ask if anybody had any additional, questions or comments or any kind of reservations or anything about this. I think it's good that they're going after this available funding.
Really?
Does anybody else have questions or comments? Maybe it would be good if we put it in the form of a motion that the Waste Management District Board supports the efforts of staff to try to get this grant money.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. All of those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you all very much. What's the potential award time for the second grant?
They're both at the same time.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you all. Next item you have on here is replacement of fence banner, outer loop.
Yeah, I put that out of order. Okay, so sadly, this is what our fence banner looks like at the Outer Loop Recycling Center. This was originally installed in 2017. It was not a district project. This was a council member project. I don't really know how they got the funding, but they put some nice banners around the fence, but they have been tattered over time. So we are going to replace it. So this is the updated banner. It is in different sections based on the length of, whether it's a gate or a smaller section of fence. So it's not always this exact pattern, but these are the elements in it. And this is not one that needs approval. It is less than $5,000, but we wanted to go ahead and share with you all this update and for that center. So it's definitely needed. It's in the works. It's going to it's going to be a little bit shorter because this one was a little too long, and I think was weed eaters and any kind of maintenance around the fence line was really compromising. Besides the fact that it's just getting old now. We would like to put these types of banners at the other locations. But this is a different company making this one. And I think, we just kind of want to get this one replaced first, and then we'll consider size and links we need and the costs for the other two sites.
I'm assuming that logo that's on the screen is the design.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the pictures I have of the old one also have a big recycle section, but I just didn't end up getting any pictures of that part of it. And then we're just kind of it'll look brighter just because it's newer, but we decided to make the logo stand out. They had been kind of grayed out in the other design, so.
All right. Any questions or comments? All right. Item number 3.
Okay, so would you all like me to open that ordinance document?
It was included in our packet, correct?
Yeah.
I have it pulled up.
I think this is another part of the agenda that I'm going to go ahead and share that particular thing. Hold on. I didn't get a whole lot of updates on this, except a little bit from Pete this morning. So I believe Mary Rose might have had some concerns about this.
I did. I had a couple concerns. One is I am sort of shocked that the Metro Council passed an ordinance about the 109 board, and no one on the 109 board even knew that they were considering passing an ordinance about the 109 board. And I just feel like we should have been told from a lot of different sources. I'm disappointed in my own Metro councilman for not telling me this. Anyway, I don't know if other people on the board knew about it, but I would like to have had some input on this. The two concerns I have there are a couple concerns I have with the ordinance. One is that it says a quorum is half of the people on the board, but then it says we need 4 votes to pass something. So it takes 4 people to make a quorum. So if there are only 4 people there, does that mean everybody has to vote for it to pass? It's just very, as far as conducting a meeting, it doesn't seem right. And they all of a sudden are saying that we elect our chair instead of the mayor appointing our chair, which is fine with me. I don't have a problem with it. I just would like to have known that that was being considered and why they decided to change that on us. And the third thing is that it says that you can only have 3 terms. Basically, it says even if you've had 3 terms, you can't stay off for 2 years and then have another term, which usually that is what happens when there's term limits. But this doesn't allow for that. And it restricts the organizations outside of the mayor to who they can appoint, which I'm not sure is legal to restrict. If the state legislature gave an organization a privilege, then the Metro Council shouldn't be coming in and saying who that organization can and can't appoint. So those are my concerns about it. I don't know what we can do about it now other than going back to Metro Council and having it changed, or if we even want to do that. But I was not pleased when I read this.
Has this passed, Karen?
Yes, it was passed. It was presented in November to the Metro Council committee, and it was passed on a consent agenda as the 42nd item on the consent agenda on the first meeting in December.
Yeah, that's interesting because I had heard nothing about it either.
When speaking with Pete this morning, I just kind of asked, well, what's the process here? And it sounded like if we, takes these concerns back to our county attorney for the rewrite, find a sponsor and just get it before another council meeting. So it's not out of the question to do that. If that's what y'all want to do.
Yeah, I guess what we're gonna have to do is bring it up at the next meeting because I guess you can't answer the questions that some of the members had about where this originated.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I just popped the video link in the chat for you guys of where it was discussed at the committee. I saw this on the agenda and I watched it. I tuned in and, I encourage you to watch the video for yourself. But, my best recollection of this was that Councilman Hollander had explained it to the other members on the committee that all of the changes, one for one, exactly, were meant to comport with state law. And it was meant to square what was on the books for Louisville Metro Code of Ordinances with state law, with the one exception, the one difference being that the board, that you all were given the ability to pick your own chairperson as opposed to the mayor appointing somebody. He said that was the only one difference that wasn't state law. And his explanation was that he figured that was what the council would prefer. I think if you paid a lot of attention to the city council, especially in the last administration, there was a lot of concern about, the mayor's authority versus them having some input as who gets to decide things. But again, I think I put the right link up there. And if you watch that, it's a pretty short presentation, like Mary Rose said, and then it went on the consent calendar and that was it. I hope that's helpful, but I watched it.
Yeah, that is helpful. There was a change to state law, and that does make sense because that state law made changes that would have required to have been put into ordinance, and I guess nothing had been done to my knowledge prior to that. So.
Yeah, and I'm not objecting to the whole thing or to the fact that it needed to be in compliance with state law or any of that. I'm just saying, in a representative government, no one thought to tell the people that this was about, that they were thinking of making changes. It doesn't seem very representative to me. So, and I don't think that the thing where Waste Management Group and the League of Cities Group can only appoint somebody for 3 terms is necessarily in order with state law, but we are going to look into that. I don't know if the waste management people are or not, but we are.
Yeah, that was just my best recollection, Mary Rose. Of
Well, and I agree. That's
Councilman Hollander said.
Hollander said when he presented it. So.
Yep, I encourage you to do your own homework and watch the video and all that stuff. But I hope that helps.
What I would suggest, Mary Rose, is can you put your concerns in writing, and we'll ask Pete to get a response for you from the county attorney that was dealing with it.
Pete may already have heard my concerns.
Okay.
When I read it, in the packet, I expressed these concerns to Pete. So
okay.
And we're looking into it a little further, and perhaps we can get something in writing, but not tomorrow. We're not going to be ready that quickly.
So that was purely an informational item, Karen, correct?
As far as I know.
Yeah. All right, the advisory committee report.
All right, I don't see Bruce here today.
I didn't see Bruce, no.
Well, at the last advisory committee meeting last week, I shared an update about our progress with working with the Louisville Apartment Association and with a goal of creating a multifamily waste management practices and recycling toolkit. So, so I had just basically shared with them a draft of that, and I'm waiting for feedback from those on their green committee. I'm going to put my PowerPoint back up here. I can't remember. I think I had at least picture. Let's see. All right. So, so we have been meeting with them monthly since June, for their formed green committee. JD Carey leads that, and I guess he's the president of the Louisville Apartment Association, and he's attended a lot of the advisory committee meetings. And so it's been a really great partnership to kind of join forces with them, and with the goal of just making solid waste management better at apartments. And so we have drafted this toolkit. I could pull it up if you all want to see it. It's modeled after some other city toolkits that we've seen, and also, Bob, you might remember a green ink packet from years ago, I guess.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So we used some of that as well. And the next step for us is to work on some of the supplemental tools and templates. So the idea will be to have, not only just the information and kind of a brochure style thing, but we want to have an easy waste audit calculator, also some templates for emails and letters that can be sent to tenants, a DIY sign maker. So if you're gonna, you can put your logo on some printable signs and things like that. So we're kind of working on that part of it while we wait for some feedback on the content of the toolkit. And the background picture I used here is actually a photo that one of the members of that committee sent us, because she had decided to set up recycling she owns a couple of fourplexes, and it wasn't feasible for her to really have recycling carts. She had tried figuring out how to make it work with their hauler, and nothing worked. So she decided to set up a drop-off location near their laundry and just take it over to Bowman Field on her own. And that was her first couple of bags of recycling when she started that. She had sent me. So so she's at least, really on board with this, and she's been a great advocate on that committee. So I just kind of used that picture as the background. The other part of our advisory committee is the fact that we will need to start working on the 5-year plan. So, we spent so much time getting that together, and it is now the work is to be done. So, so I'm not sure how really to go about this. If there's tasks, we do appreciate more specific direction from the board. We had been meeting as subcommittees, and we've decided we've not started those back the way they were, because we wanted to possibly change that up based on the new, some of the direction in the 5-year plan is similar to what we were already doing, but I wasn't sure if there's any discussion or any ideas for how the advisory committee can move forward.
Well, I guess what I would suggest on that would be that board members take a look at that 5-year plan that Pete provided in, I guess it was our packets for the last meeting. Take a look at that and see if people have any specific concerns or targets as laid out in the plan that they would like to see staff approach first, perhaps. Now, some of it has task plan in there where it orders when things will be done. But I would suggest everybody take a look at that and maybe at the next board meeting, pass it on to Pete that we'd like to have staff's interpretation of it as well as board members' concerns or interests. And if you maybe could, if you have anything specific, maybe if you could get it to Pete or Karen, a week or so prior to the next board meeting. And maybe Karen send out a reminder somewhat before the next board meeting.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you. Was there any, I'm sorry, I didn't pause between the two topics. If anybody had anything about the multifamily or advisory committee.
I think it's good that the apartment association is interested in working in this with us, with the staff on this. Because a lot of times that is a big hole in recycling programs is the multifamily area. Some owners just don't care. You get a lot of turnover. It's kind of hard to keep something going because you're constantly trying to re-educate people. So it's I think it's a great idea to be working on that. Any other questions of the advisory committee? Okay, next is the staff report.
Yes, so last month I told you a little bit about the pop-up drop-off, all the data that we collected for the last year, and now we are trying to plan for the upcoming year, which is a difficult task. So right now, our first event is pretty much the first two are going to be good to go. We're looking at April 1st at Sun Valley. It's similar to last year. Councilwoman Fowler, Cindy Fowler, she helps us out with that one and works with the park. I technically still have to get that application. I've sent the application to Parks, but I haven't received anything back for that. But she works with the people who do the soccer games and stuff. And as long as it's a Saturday attached to spring break weekend, there's no events there. So I think we're good to go on April 1st for our first one at Sun Valley. And we've been using this church across the street, Ashby Lane Baptist. They allow us to use the parking lot for document shredding, electronics, and we've had prescription medication, those 3 items at the church just to alleviate some of the traffic issues. And then April 22nd would be the one at Metro Fleet, which is usually no problem at the event we hold at Fleet. We've always had good success with traffic flow. And this year we are not doing it on the same day as the Derby marathon and mini marathon because it was a strain on our staff because it was an oversight and they have to do all the cleanups and everything after the race. So that's why it'll be the week before. And the other dates are just kind of tentatively asked for. Again, Fern Creek Park worked really well in November instead of trying to use the high school. So we were going to attempt that again. I haven't heard back from Parks if it's available. Doss High School worked really well in June, and I'm waiting for a response from them. Pete was interested in checking Fairdale High School to see if that could be a possible location for a different location, but we haven't been out there to assess it yet. But otherwise, Metro Fleet could be used again. We are having some issues with U of L's Shelby campus. In the past, the council office has scheduled that with them. And this year, the contact person got passed to me for me to schedule it. And I don't know if I overshared, but apparently they don't like how we've been using the lot, and came back with an email with very strict stipulation of how much space we can use and what we can and cannot do. And I'm not sure that we can hold an event with their specifications. So that's kind of a problem that we haven't overcome yet. Shawnee Park, we're hoping to do in October this year. Again, I haven't heard from Parks about that. And then Eastern High School was a major traffic problem 2 years in a row. So we were considering doing a second event at U of L Shelby campus instead. But now that we have issues with them, I'm not sure what we're going to do.
Seneca High School, it's in between the two.
What was the Seneca?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what you said? I don't know. I'm not familiar.
Or in relatively close proximity to Eastern High School would be the state park over there on Fraser Hill Road.
Okay. We can check it out. And I have not reached back out to the council office, but because they do partner with us as well, with the shredding and everything, I usually get their opinion or ask about locations if we're looking for one. But I'll keep those ideas in mind too. So that's my update on the pop-up drop-off planning.
All right.
And sorry, I forgot I put this up here. This is just, we typically have printed flyers to hand out at the events, and I'm kind of kicking myself for just now thinking of it, but we had put the whole schedule on the paper printed, and so if there were ever any issues or changes, it's kind of like hard because it's out there. So I think the idea this year is we will try to direct people to look at our website for the schedule. That way, if there's any changes or if it's not quite set in stone yet at the beginning of the year, that we haven't put any wrong information out there. So I just wanted to share that. And then using a QR code that can go straight to the website too.
Yeah, good idea.
I know there's a couple other staff members on here, but no one informed me that there were any other updates. So but.
All right. Back to announcements. I guess the next board meeting is February 22nd. And you usually send out your notices on your advisory committees prior to that, but you got one for February 15th. Anything else in announcements? Any board member or any participant out there on the WebEx?
I just had a question. Earlier in the meeting, Karen, I think you referred to the interim director or some such, what was that person's name once again?
Jeff Brown.
Jeff Brown? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been around for a while, but yeah, he's our interim director.
Okay, thank you.
Karen,
That's
is that
correct.
interim? Sorry, I'm sorry, Bob. Is that
Uh,
interim director of SWIMS or Public Works?
Of the Department of Public Works. Thank you for
About-
clarifying that.
How about
Yeah.
SWIMS?
We currently just don't have a director of swims.
Okay.
David Miller and Tyson Farrow are our administrators. So we kind of defer to them right now.
Any other questions or comments from board members or the audience? Okay, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved.
So moved. Mhm.
If there are no, I'll second that. If there are no other inputs from any of the board members, we thank you all very much for another month of this. Thanks for all your
Thank you,
help
Karen, for
that you're
stepping
gonna
in.
give
Good
Karen,
job,
Carl.
Karen.
Yes,
Great
thank you.
job, Karen.
Thank you.
See
Good
everybody
night.
next month.
See y'all February.